problem when we sort of seem to blame the poor. The vast majority of people need help, and we don't call bankers scroungers day in and day out. The state.
Well, we are now.
Well, I know, but
yeah.
only now, and they've been doing it for so long. You know, the government spends billions bombing countries. We don't have a question about that, and then we're concerned about people trying to pay their rent and feed their families. I think the questions are all upside down. We need to focus on why people are poor, why there are so many people.
But then you can understand if hard-working taxpayers think that there are some people who are just on the take, Maajid. Do you think, Maajid, that there is a sort of a loss of work ethic in this country?
Well, I think that there is a problem. I'm pro-welfare. I don't think we should go down the way of America, but there is a problem, and I think that problem, I'm sorry, but you just represented it and summed it up for me, which is that why couldn't you have taken the job and then whilst working, look for another job that you're happier with? There was absolutely nothing stopping you doing that, and millions of people do it every day. They work, and whilst they're working, send CVs off to other places. Why should taxpayers have to subsidise your preferences? Because that's what's going on. Now, I'm pro-welfare, and I don't want to blame the poor, but I think your example leads to people stereotyping and blaming the poor, and that's where I think that we're going wrong.
Michael?
I'm a little unhappy with that, because I've worked all my life straight from school, and I just feel unhappy. Yes, I've been out of work 4.5 years, but my own personal circumstances doesn't mean to say that I have to rush out and get a job and panic myself into that.
4.5 years is quite a long time.
It is, yeah, but I've been looking for the last 2-3 years to do the right thing, but there's been no help out there for me to do it.
Mark?
Well, this shows how the welfare state's failing. Now, it's always extremely difficult, I think, for people who take my sceptical view. It's extremely difficult to be critical of the welfare state without it sounding as if we're lording it over the poor or believe everybody who's on welfare is a scrounger. But surely to God, generally speaking, appreciate we're having a difficult time at the moment, but decade on decade, this country's getting richer, more affluent. We are incomparably more affluent than we were when Beatrice Webb came up with this concept, mammothly more affluent than we were when the welfare state was set up. We should therefore be expecting, in normal circumstances, welfare spending to be falling year on year.
Yeah, but where are the jobs right now? That's the problem, because the jobs are not there right now, so it's a difficult time for all this. But Anne Cryer, do you come up against people in your constituency that you think should be working?
Yes, I do, actually. I have 3 regulars who come in week after week telling me that they should be on benefits, but they're not on benefits. One is living on his dad's pension. His dad is kind enough to keep him. Yeah. Another one is living on his wife's carer's allowance, and they're very, very poor, but for some reason he won't get a job. And there's another lady who says she's just too ill to work, but the doctor keeps telling her that she's actually perfectly well and can work. So none of those 3 people are on benefits. So I do deny the fact that benefits encourage people not to work. On the other hand, there are people such as myself, almost 70, still working. Think of the people who take early retirement and get a pension that they contributed to, and then get another job, such as Church of England have a great many, in fact I don't know what they do without them, non-stipendiary ministers who have been either bank managers or head teachers or whatever beforehand. They've taken their retirement and then they go back to work as a minister in the Church of England for no money at all, perhaps expenses. So I think the work ethic is alive, well and strong in this country.
Yeah, but there are, I was on with Tammy. I mean, look at everything that you've achieved. Do you think there are some people who are picking up incapacity benefit who are perfectly able-bodied?
No.
Or is that a tabloid myth?
I think it is a myth, because
I think there are some people. I mean, there's definitely people I see who have blue badges who don't need an accessible. It is different. There are people in every walk of life who will push their boundaries as far as they go. But in this country, for disabled people trying to find work, there is still a significant amount of discrimination in terms of employers' attitudes. Someone I know who's had issues with mental health problems didn't disclose it because she was terrified. Company found out about chucked her out. Did it stop her doing her job? No, it didn't. But we still have a huge amount, and we just stigmatise people in different ways.
Colette wants to come
by
back
passing them on the head.
Do you agree?
I agree with what you're saying. I think the majority of people do claim benefits have worked before. A lot of people that are on incapacity benefit, I know the rules are slightly changed now, are people that came out of work for health reasons, and because the system disadvantages them, getting back into work becomes more difficult, and become more entrenched in worklessness, and the benefit bill goes up.
Scott, here's a prime example.
It doesn't exist in a vacuum, claiming benefits. As Tony says, there are employers' responsibilities as well. When employers get on board and look at increasing diversity of their workforce and economic benefits and taking
Scott, here is an example, because you're a carer too. You get carer's allowance, don't you?
Correct,
yeah,
yes.
How much is that?
It's £50, 55 pence a week.
To look after your wife who's poorly?
That's correct.
So if you were to, and she's on benefits, so if you were to get a job, you would lose that? You'd
Basically, I'd lose that, and I'd also have to look and pay somebody else to care for my wife while I was at work. So basically, I'm going to have to pay to go to work, which is, in this economic climate, it's just not on.
So that's the system. Douglas Murray, how do you sort things like that? Guys like Scott, who'd love to work but can't because they can't afford to.
Sure, no, that's madness. But I mean, that nobody, I think, would think that was a good situation. But the whole issue of the work ethic thing is something we should address in this country, and we will have to address it in the coming years during the recession. That's like one thing. You mentioned the Shannon Matthews family case. It's a great shock to a great many people in this country to discover that this underclass existed. But we have to also recognise the fact that to a very great extent that underclass was created because the working class was imported into this country. You then got the idea that there were jobs that people who lived in Britain could not do. They were beneath them. And there are other countries in Europe that have the same problem. We've got to get around this idea. If we want our streets cleaned, we're going to have to go and clean the streets. Somebody has to do the job.
What would you like to say? 45 seconds.
I have a disabled child, and I work with over 90 families in York that have disabled children.
Yeah.
We're in the same situation as you over there. People want to work, they can't get help to look after their disabled children, and people are living on the poverty line.
You're saying it's ridiculous, Mark. These people are trapped in these situations.
It shows what how the welfare state is failing, that you'll get in a position where rationally, if you're on welfare, the state is not incentivising you to find work. The lady who's working in the textile factory there is probably, in effect, making a few pence an hour compared to what you'd be on welfare. This is an absolutely ridiculous system.
Thank you all very much for taking part. We will see you next week from Cardiff. Goodbye from everybody here on The Big Questions.